Right, I'm joined here today at the Wise Group office in Durham with Kevin Devonport. Kevin's came all the way from Leeds, artist from Leeds. He's came to have a chat with us today around pro-social modelling, the stigma attached to people coming out of custody and how we can support people differently and how companies, organisations, enterprises like the Wise Group can get more involved in that. So, Kevin, thank you very much for being here.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Cheers, matey. And I know we've had a couple of pre-chats before this, so it's good to have sort of have you in the room. Cheers for that. So I suppose first, matey, like how did you get involved in art? How did that come about?
In art, so never an artist beforehand. Never had any aspirations to be an artist. Had little interest, I'd say, when I was younger. But I'd say a bit of a bad experience at school that probably put me off. So,
right.
But then I had that little, I've always said it must have been inside me somewhere, because I used to like looking around art galleries, what weren't exactly normal from a kid come from a council estate.
Yeah.
So, but it's when I went to prison, first time I encountered an art class was in HMP Whitemore.
Right.
And I was looking through the window and just admiring. I really did want to go in there, but never had the courage.
Right.
And it was just with that lack of confidence in myself, in my own ability. But then it was like a later sentence. I mean, I did a few sentences all for drug offences.
Right. Right.
And it was later when I was doing a big sentence that I was put in an art class, and that's when I just really took to it.
Right. Yeah. Oh no, that's fantastic. So obviously, first time in, I look through and sometimes there's a stigma attached to sort of that as well, Kevin, isn't he? So when you're looking at it and you're looking through the window, it's like, what does me peers think of as going to art as well, isn't it?
Yeah. It wasn't so much, I mean, because like art can be quite a big thing in prison and people get into it. I mean, you go on any prison wing, I think, in this country, and there'll always be somebody doing a little hustle, of doing portraits for somebody else. So that's their way of getting by.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, it's accepted, amongst there. But my lack of confidence going in there was being with the peers in there with their ability miles better than mine.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like I didn't have no confidence at all of what I could produce myself.
Yeah.
No, I've come on a long way since then. But
honestly, some of the art I've been looking at that you've done, and is it what's it class? Is it realism that you do? What's it classed as?
I'd say a lot of it's realism. I don't go too much into abstract form, so I paint a lot of realism. But I do try to, rather than it just being decorative art, I do like to have a bit of a concept behind things. But if I ever do, it's like honest. If I ever do something that is just decorative, then I'll just say it for what it is.
Yeah,
and it's just a picture of this or that. But a lot of things I do like to have a little something thought-provoking behind what I'm doing.
So give us a bit of an example then. So some of the arts, obviously, I've seen the Coke bottle stuff and some of the things that you've done in the past. Have you got any of your pieces that particularly stand out for yourself?
Do you want me to give you a little insight into what I'm working on at the minute?
100%.
Yeah, right. So recent, I was working in for a charity from up here in North East, and I was working in Wakefield. Fab. So I was out walking around Wakefield. I used to have to pick my own clients up and things. So I've seen a lot of people that are really having not best of times, and from you could see your lower echelons of society. And I just walking past this old telephone box. Right. And it was all vandalised and wrecked, just outside Old Courts in Wakefield.
Right, yeah.
And it's one of them, I get these flashbang moments sometimes of inspiration. I stopped and I was just looking at it, and then I was just thinking of like the state of the country at the minute, and like the red telephone box was like
proper old telephone box.
Yeah.
The red.
It's an iconic to UK. I mean, I've got a friend ex-military that was in forces saying he's been importing telephone boxes to Germany and selling them over there.
Right. So that's another little hustle as well.
Yeah. So it's like an iconic image, isn't it, for this country? And I just saw it all wrecked, and I just thought, I mean, the idea of the painting, I'm calling it the state we're in. So it's like a double entendre. The state we're in is in the country, and then the state of the country. And it just hit me for that moment in time. Yeah, so that's what I'm working on at the minute. I mean, somebody will look at that in the art world and just think, oh, it's just a telephone box, and they won't get much artistic credit. But no, I think it's quite meaningful.
Yeah. And that's it. Sometimes it's the meaning behind things, isn't it? Because I think art's art, and everybody views art differently, don't they? Anyway, so
very individual thing.
Yeah. And it's person-centered as well, isn't it? It's something that like you're saying, it's individualized, but something that's got meaning to you and the country. And I suppose on the larger scale, somebody might come and say it's a telephone box, but other people might view it the way you view it. So that's
You've
really
just hit
important.
art on the head for me. You've nailed it. It's what's individual to you. Because I think too much in the art world, it'll be like, this is what art is, and people will just be following what other people think art should be, rather than that own individual coming from your own self. Yeah, an expression of yourself. So all art in my eyes is valid. Don't matter where it's come from. You know, could be someone no artistic training whatsoever, and just like doing a little doodle. You know, to a Damien Hirst. Everything's valid as long as it's authentic to the person. Yeah,
that's unbelievable. And I know you touched on the veteran stuff a second ago there. So obviously being an ex-veteran, being a veteran yourself and being sort of ex-military, how do you think? I know you mentioned before that you were in custody on a couple of sentences. Was that? Did you mention how long was that over?
I've done 24 years in sentences in all. Yeah. So the smallest sentence I did was 2.5 years, and the biggest was 13.5 years. Yeah.
So institutionalized a little bit before you got released. Were you feeling, or was it sort of? How did you feel?
Tried not to get institutionalized.
Did art help with that though?
Yeah, because it took my mind out of there. I've had like bits of debates. I mean, everybody does their own time in own little ways, and some people like to become enthralled in the prison world and cut themselves off completely from outside world. You know, that's their way of doing things. You know, if you cut the outside world off, I think the danger in that is for when you come released, because you've so far detached from the world, especially when it's moved on. Yeah, you've lost touch of what's really going on, and I think it'll be harder to readjust.
No, absolutely. No, I totally agree with that. So when was your final sentence? When obviously your life's changed for the better. Right. When did you come out? What year did you come out?
I come out January 27th, 2020. So just about 5 years ago, about 5.5 years ago now. Yeah.
Right.
That was a 4-year sentence that I did then.
Right. Yeah. And was that just sort of enough's enough type of thing? Was it?
Yeah. Right from day one of going in, thought that's it now. Done completely.
And you mentioned on another podcast I've sort of watched you on that you came out roughly around when COVID was rearing its ugly head, let's say.
Well, it was still that disease in China when I first came out. That's what people were saying. And then 10 days after released, I got it. And I got it in a bad way. I'd say I was pretty close to being hospitalised. Which what was crazy, that Christmas I'd just caught the flu. So, and at first I was thinking, I've got a bad bout of flu here. Yeah. But I think you don't get flu and then get it a month later.
No, absolutely not.
And then people saying that's that bug from China. And I was writ off with that. So just 10 days after getting out, I got COVID and
So how did you find, obviously there was still I suppose the country sort of went into lockdown a little bit.
Yeah, got that.
To be totally honest, I've worked in the prisons for a long time, and it did come across as if it was very institutionalized the way the country locked down, when it was like you cannot do this, you can only go for a walk for an hour a day. It was all that. Did that have any effect on you when you obviously you came out in January, so it didn't I've
come out of one prison to another.
Yeah, basically.
So, but maybe because I'd not had time to readjust so much, it wasn't so bad for me.
Right.
Because imagine I've come out of a prison cell, or the madness of a prison wing. And then I'm going to a prison where I've got home comforts, I've got my own bed and that. So it was still a step up the ladder for me.
Oh, absolutely.
I suppose it'd be a lot harder for other people that's not used to that isolation. But you do get used to that over time, which is one of the problems with rehabilitation, I think, because I've found that you can isolate yourself a little bit too much then. Cut yourself off because you're used to it. You become accustomed to your surroundings.
Yeah. What about obviously you'll have moved in certain circles in the past, and then you've broke away from those sort of that criminalized lifestyle. How's that? How have you gone about dealing with that? How have you done that?
That's difficult, really difficult, because you've got to break away from the world. It's what you become accustomed to, and all the associates that I had to cut myself off completely from one world and into a new world. That I wasn't more familiar with, and a bit like bulimia. When I'm trying to enter another world with a stigma that you can get of being an ex-offender. Yeah, So you wear all the values. You got to take the values in of society, be a productive member of society. But at the same time, with the stigma, you're getting spewed back out again.
Yeah,
that's why I call it like a bit of a bulimic process.
No,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
I get that. That's a good way of putting it. To be honest,
Yeah.
that's a good way of putting it. But even then, sort of, you've got that sort of, you've had that lifestyle. You've come out. You're an adult, and do you know what I mean? You're a man. You've come out. You've had to change your full life around. Obviously, that begins inside. You've started doing that. You've got the skills and tools set up. You've been doing that over the years. You've decided enough's enough on your last sentence. Still, those people are there. You're in a similar sort of area. They still want you back in that lifestyle. So it's a massive change. It's a massive change to do as an adult, because you've only known what you've known for a long period of time. But to change that, hats off to you, mate, because it is a big change.
I think one of the things I never had to deal with peer pressure.
Right.
I've always been pretty much my own person anyway. When I'll do my own thoughts, but peer group everybody accepted that I moved on. There was no trying to entice me back.
Oh, was there not? Right.
No. They pretty much accepted it. So I was pretty fortunate, you could say, in that way. Because some people do have people that will put pressure, and try to entice them back into that way of life. Yeah.
And that's obviously going to have its effects on people, isn't it? It's going to be harder to do that if you've got that constant peer pressure.
Yeah. It's part of human nature, isn't it, to follow the group.
No, absolutely.
And sometimes one thing you'll learn in prison, sometimes you'll see you learn a lot about human behaviour in prison, watching people. And you can see groups, and there's times you'll see people won't agree with things, but they'll go along with it just because everybody else is. There's not too many people that will stand and swim against the tide and, go their own way. Yeah. Which takes a lot more courage to do. No, that.
Absolutely.
You've got to stand out and be different. So,
be your own person, I suppose, and follow your beliefs and your morals. And
that's one.
Follow your moral compass a little bit. Yeah. What about, so you touched on stigma there of coming out of custody. How do you feel? I suppose it's a two-part question, this one. What sort of stigma did you find you came across when you came out of custody? And I suppose the other part of that question from my end is, how can enterprises like the Wise Group help people like yourself reduce that stigma and help support change, I suppose?
I mean, stigma I've experienced goes right back to my first sentence, from when I was released. Good time. That's when I first started educating myself. I've always used my time in prison constructively. I've always used it like some type of self-development. I won't want to just go in a workshop and just get packing tea bags all day, pointless work. So I always wanted something that would better me. So I did my GCSEs. First sentence I did, went on to A level, did all the coursework, and then got released. And I only had to do with my exams. This was back in the 1990s. And nobody let me sit an exam. Someone's probation called around all the colleges, Leeds, Bradford, Wakefield, and someone's doing my papers coming from prison. It was just wouldn't touch it. All I had to do was sit an exam. I want wanting to attend the college. Just have exam conditions. So basically, I was just give me a table and a chair for a couple of hours, and that was it. So I never finished my A levels down to that.
It's crazy,
doing all the work.
When you think back now,
I had that stigma then. Yeah. So I was aware of that, how people see it, and look at offences that I was always drug offences. So I was caught up in that drug world, and your average person will see a criminal, and that's not just a drug offender. You're a thief, a liar, a thug, a cheat. You're everything. Even though it's like, I've never stolen off nobody, but you'll still be labelled that. Just every negative label you can think on will be stuck on you.
How sort of can enterprises like ourselves, like probation, like the police, how can people support people like yourself, Kevin, when you're coming out? What sort of I suppose, what sort of support mechanisms is somebody like yourself looking for?
Well, for starters, our acceptance, what we was on about earlier before, and then we was having a little discussion with people, when you employ people with lived experience. So having role models like that, that's a massive thing, I think, and so valuable to have that lived experience, in an organisation, but it also gives other people aspirations. So if somebody's they're thinking there's no way out, and they can see somewhere where somebody else has done it. It's proof of the pudding, isn't it?
No, absolutely. And like I said, I mentioned before, obviously the Wise Group do that. We employ people with lived experience. It's something in our DNA.
It also breaks a lot of barriers down. I mean, I've done all right with my art. It took me to places where I never thought, but I still find the art world can be very exclusive, do you know, especially in terms of like social class. And you'll find your typical person off a council estate, they don't get exposed to things, you know, it's all survival mode, you know. So where more fortunate kids, they'll get more opportunities for self-development.
Yeah.
So be able to study like poetry, educate themselves better, they'll be more articulate.
Yeah.
Where your council estate kid, it's like from word one, it's like survival mode.
Yeah.
And that takes all the life up.
The thing is with that though as well, Kevin, like it's a different sort of skill set. But it can be moved into different environments, can't it?
If people are wise enough to do that, to see that, you know, where it's transferable skills, without a doubt. Yeah,
we work with people coming out of custody every day. Stigma attached to those. I suppose for the individuals, from the individual's point of view, what would you say to anybody who sort of feels that they haven't got any hope? Obviously, there have been points in your sense where you thought, you know what it is, this is now. Nothing's going to change for me, and so you start sort of feeling a bit more like a pity party, isn't it? You start feeling sorry for yourself, and everybody does it, don't you? Whether you're in custody or not. What would you say to people?
Life's never a straight road, you know. So you have good times, you have bad times, right? And the bad times, things are going to get better. You know, it's just a lot of averages. You know, moments are always fleeting, they come and go. And I can remember the first time I went to prison, I was a drug user, nobody bothered with me. And I remember a very low point, I was in the seg. I'd had the clothes cut off my back. So I'm out there like naked at the time, and I just thought, I've truly got nothing now in life.
That was your rock bottom at the time.
And I almost use that as a reference point. You know, things where you have that bad day, it's not as bad as that. And look at all the things I've done and achieved since then.
Yeah.
Now, at the time, I could have had a mindset then, well, this is just the be all and end all. This is it.
Yeah.
But it's not it. You know, you just got to think about the choices you make from there. You know, we've always got like lots of different paths you can choose. And things that sometimes the best decisions are not the short term. What could satisfy you in that short term? It's not always the best. Sometimes you got to soldier things out to get to a better destination. Yeah.
It's like that. So sometimes that immediate gratification doesn't always.
No, quite often I think it's like that. Yeah.
No, but that's true. And anybody who's listening to this is that's a good point. That's a massive point to make, I suppose, Kevin, because you've got to put, I suppose, the effort in to make change happen.
To get anywhere where you want to go, I mean, where have you ever known anything in life where it's just an easy walk? I mean, some people are fortunate that they have things a bit easier, but there's always barriers and obstacles.
Definitely.
And one of the best things I got from army was like the discipline, you know, having self-discipline.
Yeah.
And if you want to get there from here, there's things you're going to have to do that you don't like.
Exactly.
You've got to push yourself through that. And as soon as you find that self-discipline, you know, that's when you do get to your place where you want to be. Yeah.
And it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of courage.
Yeah.
But there is people, I suppose, like ourselves who can support you along that journey. I think, I suppose my advice of part of this would be to allow that support to happen, because nobody gets anywhere on their own. I think, although you made the initial decision that you want to change and that you're ready for change, like your low point in the seg, you still need people around you, positive people, positive peers, positive support networks to support you on that journey, and that's so important. Isn't so important. Thank you very much for coming, Kevin. Honestly, you've been an absolute blessing. It's been amazing.
Lovely.
Cheers, buddy.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Mate. Cheers. Thanks.